Why hello there, my name is Mountain, and today I'd like to talk to you about this. And what is this, you might ask? Well, this, my friends, is the Alpha 31 by Remote Equipment. Now, Remote Equipment is a small Chicago-based manufacturer of some very interesting crossover EDC adventure travel style bags. And the Alpha 31 is one of their more famous bags. And this is actually the second release, the unofficial sort of V2. There is a third release version that's now out for sale. And when this bag was originally released, it was described by Philip, the designer, as the ultimate EDC bag, a technical pack optimized for active commutes. Though the latest version of the website dubs the latest V3 version as sort of purposely built for a wide range of adventures, both big and small. Now, we'll dig into those perspectives during this review. I've been using this bag, the second production bag, for a couple of years now, on a wide variety of one-bag travel, EDC, and sort of adventure outdoor travel type styles, and taken up a few mountains as well. Now, what I can say up front about this bag is that it has several main claims to fame. Now, first of all, it's a very versatile bag. You can probably tell just by looking at it, but you've got a roll top at the top, and you've got this big clamshell opening in the front, and then you've got a side access laptop section in the back here. You've got a hip belt that's removable, and I'll show you that later, and you've got a bunch of other little accoutrements for both outdoor use, but also maybe for EDC use, etc. So it's quite adjustable and flexible, and you can change the capacity a lot by unclipping this and, unrolling the roll top. So you can do a wide variety of things with this bag. It also has a very cool high-tech looking aesthetic. The fabrics are great, the design, the water resistance. The design is great, has high water resistance, has this really high-tech look and feel, especially depending on how you kind of use the bag, and an eye-catching aesthetic that I personally find both pleasing but doesn't look too far out there. It also has that flexible access I was just talking about. Clamshell, roll top, side access, port for the laptops. Lots of different ways of getting access into the bag while also giving you the benefits of having adjustable capacity as you get with roll tops here. Now, at the same time, there are some things that I found to be less optimal about this bag. It actually holds a little bit less than you might expect, despite the roll top expansion that lets it theoretically expand up to 34 liters. It's not the best EDC use bag. The organization is a little bit lacking, in my opinion, versus many other bags out there, even versus other kind of purpose-built outdoor bags. And it's also a very strappy and fussy bag. You can see there's just straps on straps on straps dangling everywhere on this bag. And while some of them do have things like webbing dominators that are built in that you can use to help control some of that strappage, a lot of the other places, interactions on the bag just do not have that. And finally, I think it's maybe its biggest shortcoming is that it's the living embodiment of the phrase, jack of all trades, master of none. It's very versatile and allows it to be used in a wide variety of settings. One bag travel, EDC, everyday carry, as a day bag, and also as like maybe a gym bag or even possibly like some sort of like school bag, but especially in outdoor, what they term adventure travel scenarios. But it doesn't excel in any of those, and it's usually handily outperformed by any purpose-built bag in any of those scenarios. Now, I mentioned at the outset that this is what we call the second production. We had it for 2 or 3 years at this point. There is a slightly updated sort of unofficial V3 out there, and it is largely the same as this bag. I'll talk about some of the differences, minor as they are, as we kind of go through this bag in the review. Now, I'm not going to make you wait until I get into the whole gist of this bag here. It's got big clamshell opening. I've got some stuff inside of there. We'll get into all that. A couple of inner pockets, one of which is a laptop sleeve and one of which is a tablet or papers, document sleeve. You've got a mesh pocket on the inside here, a little bit of a rough feeling mesh. Talk all about that. On the front, you've got of this clamshell panel sort of thing. You've got these really nice zipper pulls. They do have a little bit of a snag. We'll talk about that. Two big tubular vertically oriented pockets on the front, which have these water guard or water resistant zippers, some daisy chains, some ice tool or hiking pole loops, a couple of grab handles at the top, 2 water bottle pockets on either side, a couple of compression straps that also unclip that lets you kind of get bigger things inside of here. At the top you've got a quick access pouch, or pocket, excuse me, which also has that kind of same rough mesh. Pretty nice load carriage system with these shoulder straps, a high-tech kind of smooth back panel with a little bit of an air channel, lots of adjustability, just all the options on the shoulder straps, including these strappy load lifters. I hinted at it already, external access through a water resistant zipper to your laptop, holds up to a 16-inch MacBook Pro, adjustable removable hip belt that I will show you later, and of course this big roll top that opens all the way up to the top, allowing you to expand the bag up to around 34 liters. Now the facts on this bag is that as of 2024, it's available in a few different fabrics and colorways. There's a black version in Challenge Outdoor EPX 600, a green version in EPX 400, and a multicam black in EPLX 600. Now, all the versions come in nominally at 31 liters, plus that 3 liters of expansion from the roll top, and retail for $399. As mentioned earlier, what I have here is the 2022 or 2021 release, I don't remember, V2 version of the bag in black and 31 liters. It's also made in Challenger EPX 600. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about who this bag is for and who it's not for. So given this interesting mix of aesthetics and functions that I just showed you on here, it's unsurprising that a lot of the use cases for the Alpha 31 kind of fall in areas that leverage its flexibility and its adaptability. Now, one of the best uses, and people, whatever you want to say, that this bag is for, in my opinion, is for mixed or crossover use. It's probably this bag's sweet spot. Look, if you're looking for something where you need a jack of all trades, an EDC bag, this is sort of loaded up how I have it used for EDC use here, that can get you to class and work carrying your laptop and your books, but also has room to have like a full little, gym kit with my running shoes and my clothes and stuff inside of here, and be able to expand up there when I stop by the grocery store on the way home, put some groceries in there. This is exactly the kind of bag that this is exactly one of the kinds of bags you might want to look at, right? It's capable of doing all those urban EDC things which require kind of maybe some flexibility in the capacity, and on the weekends it's just as capable of hitting the trails for a day hike, or maybe even like a small trip on the weekends, right? It's also a good bag for day hikes. Now look, there are a lot of other better hiking packs. We'll talk about that in a second here, but reflecting this kind of outdoor DNA and aesthetics, the Alpha 31 makes for a pretty capable hiking bag, day hiking bag, as long as you're not planning on staying overnight, especially in hybrid use situations like I mentioned above, where you're kind of in the city in the weekend, or the weekday, and then get out to the country or to the woods or whatever on the weekends. And then finally, in terms of who this might be for, adventure travel or hybrid urban outdoor travel, I think is another good sweet spot for this. And this is the one that features most prominently into their product marketing. It is a good bag when it's paired with another bag, usually I would imagine like a duffel, and it like makes for a great travel bag when you're taking the kind of travel where you're like going off the beaten path for a while, but you're also still sometimes in a city or whatever. So if your trip is like taking you to a coffee shop in Oslo or Juneau one day, and then you're far up in the mountains of the Lofoten Islands or the remote Alaskan wilds the next day, and this does happen, and I did do a trip like that, then this bag is actually a pretty good choice. Like, it can be a faithful companion along both parts of that. Speaking of things that it's maybe people it's not for, use cases it's not great for, obviously business formal situations, I don't think this is going to be the right bag for you. Hopefully that's kind of just obvious on its surface. I did mention it's a great day hiking pack, and with striking aesthetics, I don't think it's a great overnight pack or a multi-day expedition pack. Now, you can get an ultralight kit in here. That said, there are definitely just better dedicated hiking bags, often for less money, that's going to do a much better job of carrying all that stuff, and it's going to do away with some of like the the things that maybe you wouldn't need in a pack, like this laptop pocket. Is going to give you a slightly better load carriage system. It's going to give you better access to and capacity, especially capacity to size or capacity to weight ratio in many cases, in terms of what you can carry versus this bag, which is not particularly lightweight, etc. Dedicated urban EDC, similarly, it can perform that scenario. I've got it loaded up, like I said, in EDC use cases. But for most people that are spending most of their time in the city, most of their time in much more civilized, type commutes, or you're commuting by car, or whatever, you're probably going to be better off with a purpose-built, dedicated EDC clamshell style bag. There's just lots of straps and load carriage, and out roll tops are kind of impractical in many cases for pure play urban, etc. There's going to be better choices out there, and often for less money as well. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at the remote equipment Alpha 31's exterior design and materials, and the first thing that you notice is it's a very striking bag. I've been kind of rotating this on camera for you, but like there's just a lot to love. Let's start with like just, it looks high tech, but it still looks and it feels like a bag, which I like, as opposed to like those boxy, artificial, plasticky concoctions you sometimes see out there. I don't want to pick on any particular brands, but you know what I'm talking about. A lot of those Kickstarter type bags just feel like plasticky boxes, and they don't feel like a bag. This feels like a bag, but it also feels and looks high tech. Now, a major contributor of that is going to be the materials. I talked about the bulk of this bag is made out of Challenger sailcloth EPX 600, and it's got this really nice it's got a nice polyester face, 600D, and is laminated to a 45 degree, I think they said, polyester cross-ply reinforcement and a 70D polyester ripstop. What this means is very strong, really nice hand feel in terms of like it still feels like an organic piece of cloth, but it has a high degree of water resistance, superior strength and durability, and it's relatively lightweight. This is not a lightweight bag, but it's relatively lightweight. And I'm a big fan of modern fabrics like this because they combine that kind of modern durability and performance with, like, you know, like I said, the traditional hand feel and aesthetics. The rest of this bag, similarly well spec'd. You got ITW Nexus and Duraflex hardware. You got some water resistant zippers here, YKK of course. You got, you know, nice little bits of shock cording and webbing dominators and all the things you might expect. Although there are a couple of areas like the mesh, most notably, that's used on the inside of this bag here, and also on the inside of the quick access pouch, that feels kind of harsh, and I'm not a huge fan of that, but overall generally really great materials. Now, another striking part of the visuals is this large roll top closure coupled with the dual front tube pockets, and that gives it like this really distinctive look that you can identify from far away. That nice little kind of, yeah, trapezoid V shape on there, but these two tubes pockets on the front really, you know, let you know in a second that this is an Alpha 31 bag. There are relatively few bags out there that look like this, and actually the ones that do really do look like this, and I'll show you some of those in the also consider section towards the end of this review. Now, beyond the striking visuals and the aesthetic, the next thing that strikes you is that this is a very strappy and dangly bag. I counted no less than like 14 things that could be ostensibly called dangly straps on this bag. There is a little bit of, like, you know, for example, the webbing dominators that help a little bit with some of this. You're still going to be dealing with a lot of things just sort of like hanging and swinging all over the place, and a lot of them don't have, like for example, these side straps don't have any additional way of strap management or something like that. But, you know, that's just sort of like the price that you're going to pay for some of that functionality of the bag. And another aspect that will stand out to you, and ironically not stand up, is the fact that the bag generally has a hard time standing up on its own. It has a very sharply raked front at the bottom to kind of bring the load closer to you. Great in outdoor scenarios, but in reality, this is a bag that spends a lot of its life like this, or sliding down from there. If you try and lean it against like a cafe chair or a wall, it'll just kind of slide down, because you basically just have this little edge that contacts the floor. Okay, next, let's talk about the load carriage on this bag, starting with the back panel and the frame sheet. I mentioned earlier that I kind of liked, or that it was very flexy, and it reminded me a lot of like the Evergoods Mountain Quick Draw 24, with this kind of long, flexible, kind of bendy type of bag style. On the one hand, I like how this bag, especially when you cinch everything up on here, the load lifters and everything, kind of like contours to your back and sort of moves with you. It can really hug your back when you got it all clipped in with the sternum strap and the load lifters and even the hip belt dialed in. And it provides, you know, like a really nice kind of like tight feeling when you're scrambling up inclines or even intensely hiking with half a load in there. Now, on the other hand, I found that the flexible frame sheet provided a little bit less support than I desired when the bag was really loaded out. And because it's sort of flexy, it actually doesn't do that great of a job of transferring weight down to the optional hip belt when attached. And then, as I mentioned to you, when you've got a larger laptop, it can take up to a 16-inch MacBook Pro style laptop in there. So when you've got a larger laptop, you know, this is a 15-inch MacBook Air, I think, like the frame sheet isn't flexible anymore. You got this, like, it doesn't bend at all up until a point where the laptop stops, and it actually feels like wearing a board on your back. And I contrast this actually again to something like the Evergoods bags, which have a bit of patterning such that like the laptop compartment can float away from the curvature of the back, which lets it kind of like, you know, still hug your back but keep the laptop straight up and down. This one feels a lot more board-like. Now, the back panel itself overlays the flexi frame sheet. It's got this really kind of dense foam, same as we're going to find in the shoulder straps here. And it doesn't have any kind of air mesh, which I think is fine and is keeping with the aesthetic of this bag. But you can again kind of tell that this bag was designed in a time before like maybe some of the more recent innovations on the market. For example, I'm a pretty big fan of like the kind of high-tech but smooth feeling air mesh or whatever that they have in the most modern Evergoods bags. I think that would have been another fine choice for a bag like this, but this is quite nice. Big center channel that allows a little bit of air through there, and it's got like sort of this stretchy material that overlays the foam. Very smooth over most clothing. It's not going to tear up your clothing or anything like that, but there is just these big broad contact surfaces on the top and on the bottom of your bag, so you will get a bit of sweat over time here. There's not a ton of moisture wicking, though the mesh does absorb a little bit of that. One thing I found is like the bag wears kind of tall on the back, and I constantly noticed it kind of pushing down on my belt, kind of like catching on the belt, and I think the kind of raked front angle here doesn't help, where it kind of would, this edge would catch on the belt and kind of like push it down. And a casual comparison to a lot of the other bags that I had of the similar size or so show this bag was ever so slightly longer than some of them in terms of torso or back length, I think. Dedicated outdoor packs will often solve this by having different, either they'll be coming in different torso lengths, or else they will have some sort of adjustability for the connection point for the shoulder straps. This bag doesn't have anything like that, so you basically one size fits, hopefully, you, and if it doesn't, you're out of luck. It was much more noticeable in EDC type scenarios, and less so in like hiking, where often you're maybe not wearing a belt because you know the pants have a built-in adjuster, or you're kind of leaning forward because you're going up an incline, so like you don't mind actually if the bag is a little bit longer because it's not catching on the back of your belt or anything. So the next part of the load carriage system are these shoulder straps. They're fairly low profile. You can see here they're not particularly thick, and they've got a slight taper. They're a little bit broader up at the top. We got some ergonomic curvature, and then they narrow down comfortably towards the bottom there, but not too aggressively. The outer surface matches. It's not the same EPX as some sort of nylon or something like that. The inside is the same stretchy mesh as the back of the bag, and it has a very nice, like dense, same kind of foam I think as here, dense, firm foam, not particularly thick. And then on the top they have a very slight kind of harder layer, so it's kind of dual layer, very thin hard layer, and then a softer but dense still foam underneath it. And then it's got this edgeless sort of strap construction up by where it's on your shoulders, on your neck, which prevents it from cutting in too much. I say sort of because like this kind of hard plastic layer at the top does theoretically have a little bit of an edge, though it's got like this nice kind of soft fabric over the top. This is the kind of shoulder strap that I personally prefer. It's the kind that relies more on like spreading out the load over like a broad, flat, low profile surface that's really kind of layering on your back, and hugs the body as opposed to like a super squishy, cushy foam or padding. So you can see here, just kind of like lays very broadly and distributes the weight broadly over large parts of your shoulders here. And that's what I like in terms of shoulder straps. I don't like those big, thick, over padded ones. But there are limitations to this load carriage system and this kind of shoulder strap, and especially coupled with this flexy, squishy back panel. I would say from personal experience, you want to stay under 10 kilograms with something like this. Like you can get it up higher, but like when I started getting 11, 12 kilograms and wearing this for any kind of extended period of time, my shoulders started to get sore. They're just a little bit too thin and too narrow in some cases for extended heavy carry at those weights. Without the hip belt, and even with the hip belt, because there's not that great of load transference, you will feel it. Now, that said, as I mentioned before, when you got this all locked in, load lifter cinched, sternum strap clicked, hip belt in, oh, it's like fused to your body's really nice close to body, high and tight feel that is really well suited for active movement. The shoulder straps have all the accoutrements you could ever want. It's like if somebody went to the shoulder strap store and said, give me one of everything. You've got your load lifters up here. You've got two loops here for either passing through a water bladder hose, or like attaching like an extra pocket and clipping down there so it doesn't fall down. You've got an adjustable sternum strap that's non-removable on rails. You've got built-in webbing dominators on the bottom of the adjustable straps. All the things that you could ever want in a shoulder strap. And I like it. It's probably something for everyone, and it does give you a lot of different options for how to kind of get this dialed into your preference here. That said, it does come with a little bit of fussiness, most evident, most obviously or clearly in the load lifters. I think in a video a couple of weeks ago of the Kiboko, Gura Gear Kiboko 30 liter plus, I kind of said like I like that that bag was constructed. You could keep the load lifters dialed in, and still like the straps would fold down flat. This is the opposite of that. When the load lifters are cinched up, which is almost a prerequisite given how long the bag is, and to kind of prevent it from, you know, kind of snagging on your back, you get this really big jutting out arch here, which is, you know, great, it's fine. But when you go to put the bag down, you get like this really nasty crease, or you will get a nasty crease, and it'll be a permanent crease if you don't let the load lifters out. So this is most evident when you put it in an overhead bin or something like that. But it's also evident in everyday life when you go to, for example, take this back loop and hang the bag on a hook on the wall or a peg on the inside of a bathroom stall, and you've got these load lifters here. They actually create a lot of horizontal distance from the back and the main amount of the bag's weight, center of gravity, from the hook. So you find yourself always like letting out these load lifters when you want to lay the bag flat, or when you want to hang it out on a hook, and then when you get it back on, you almost need to cinch them up because of the way the bag's designed. Like the frame sheet comes up so much higher than the attachment point of the shoulder straps, and especially when you've got the roll top extended out, you need to really kind of cinch this in to kind of get a good, nice, tight fit. Otherwise, again, you know, the bag just kind of dangles and is all up in your belt and all that. Being a card-carrying member of the sternum strap squad, I love sternum straps. This is a very solid implementation. Just runs up and down on rails, holds its position well. These are non-removable, which is fine with me, though if you're the kind that likes that, or you don't like sternum straps, your only option is to cut these off. Got a little bit of elastic built into the sternum strap part itself, which is really good because that gives you additional bit of comfort and flex when you're wearing it. Very easy to adjust with one hand. Built-in whistle, because you know it's a little bit outdoorsy kind of bag, into the buckle there. And one interesting thing I saw is like while this kind of rail system for adjusting a sternum strap is very common, you don't usually see ones where they've got this additional loop around the main shoulder strap itself. I actually like this because it kind of, because normally if you don't have that, when you've got the shoulder strap under load, it kind of tends to, it kind of pulls this strap in a little bit. It's fine for like urban EDC or whatever, but when you really got a bag loaded out, the advantage of this one I found is like you've got this to kind of keep the position, but like the loop around the shoulder strap really kind of helps pull the whole shoulder strap into kind of stabilizing with you. So I kind of like that. The Alpha 31 also comes with it comes with a hip belt that is removable. I mean, it's optional in the sense that you can remove it, but it comes included with the bag. It clips on with these sort of standard gate clips. I think we all are familiar with these kind of things. It attaches to these loops that are at the bottom corner of each bag. You just unpinch the gate clip like this and thread it through, and then clip it shut like this. And you've got the hip belt attached to the bottom of the bag. In terms of hip belts, like I mentioned before, you've got this pretty flexy back panel and a pretty tall bag overall. So I found that kind of impeded the load transference onto the hip belts when in use. And I also felt that the lack of being able to really adjust where the hip belts hit, because there's no adjustability to the torso length, means that if it works great for you, good. But for many of you, you're just gonna have to hope that it sort of hits somewhere where it's gonna, be useful in terms of transferring load to you. Hip belts themselves are very straightforward, just a kind of firm piece of foam with the same kind of hard plastic as the shoulder straps. So there is a bit of rigidity here. Fair degree of adjustability, simple center buckle. There is a bit of retaining strappage here that you can use to thread the excess through if you don't want it flopping around. No pockets or anything like that on here. Overall, I didn't find these to be very useful, and then the problem is you got more stuff sort of just dangling all over when you're not using the bag. And like I said, because I found the load transfers to be so limited, I didn't usually use it, but it is kind of nice that that's included as an option. The next part to talk about are the carry handles. There's 2 carry handles, one in the front, one in the back. They are decently sized-ish and are comfortable and are easy enough to carry with bare hands, whether the front or the back. But I found that when you're wearing gloves, it actually can sometimes, especially when you got the roll top up like this, it can sometimes be a little bit harder to kind of snag this. Especially the front one can be a little bit tight when you've got a bunch of stuff packed out inside there with gloves. But for like normal carry, it's fine. The dual kind of handles might tempt you to think that you can kind of like carry it like a tote bag, but it gets like it's a pretty small aperture. You can do it, but this is not like a particularly comfortable or easy interaction. Thus, in practice, I think you find that you're using them as 2 separate carry handles. This one in the back is slightly simpler, just a simple piece of looping, looped strappage, and then the one in the front, a little bit fancier, kind of doubled over and then sewn through or whatever. There's not too much else to say. You wouldn't want to carry the bag by these handles for an extended period of time. This one's not particularly comfortable because it's just a piece of strap. This one's slightly more comfortable, but when you do it, you get like this weird cant to the bag because it's just in an awkward position. Also, I mentioned earlier, when you try and hang the bag up through like on a loop, like a hook on the back of a bathroom wall or like a hook on a wall, unless you let out the load lifters, you get like this kind of big distance from the hook point to like where the bag center of gravity is, and it's often quite precarious. So I mentioned this bag spends a lot of time on the ground or kind of slumped over. It's really easy to like grab the bag from any, whether it's on this front face or its back face. Like on the back face, you can just kind of grab it like this, and when it's on its front face, like for example, when you've got this panel open, it's real easy, zip, and then you've got this hook, or this handle right here to kind of pick it up. So it was kind of nice to just give you a little extra point to manipulate the bag. The bag is also equipped with 2 compression straps on each side of the bag. They are very strappy, because even at like this is the bag's maximum depth, but you can see like the compression strap like can extend way out beyond that. They have these buckles on there, which is quite nice if you wanted to like strap something big and bulky like a yoga mat or a blanket or maybe like a tent. If you're trying to use this for overnight hiking, you can easily unclip the shoulder or the compression strap and just strap the thing to there and then cinch it tight. You can obviously use it like a compression strap and kind of use it to bring your load in a little bit more, give you a nice little tighter, more kind of like compressed carry. Though again, you've got stuff in this front pocket, so that'll always protrude out a little bit past there. It runs over the water bottle pocket here, which can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you prefer. Good thing in that if you have something small in here at the bottom, this can be like an extra thing to kind of just help keep cinch it in there. Or even like a water bottle can kind of give you an extra little bit of like retention compression. Bad thing if you're like, oh, I have another strap I always have to fuss with to kind of get my water bottle in and out of. The one at the top runs over the connection point. It's going to be a lot of black on black straps here. This is the Rolltop compression strap. It can run under or over, depending on how you set it up. This top compression strap here. In the V2 version that I have, this buckle and this buckle are different sizes. Sometimes can be confusing because then you're like, oh, it doesn't fit, and you have to realize you got the wrong one. In the V3 version that's now out, I think these are the same size, but in reality, I don't think it really matters that much. Like I said, you can kind of choose if you want to run this over or under there. So before moving on to the pocketing and the main compartment of the bag, a few of the things I wanted to touch on briefly are some of the miscellaneous features of this bag. Starting with, you've noticed you got these ice tool or hiking pole loops, one on each side here. You use them like you normally would. You run the arm of the ice tool here, you know, twist it over like that, and then they've got these removable clips, bungees at the top here. You can remove them. You can also adjust their position on this ladder within a couple of different holes, and then that just kind of binds the tool up there. You can, you know, remove these like I said, or you can put them somewhere. You could take them off and clip something else on here. You also have a water bottle no, excuse me, that's not true. A water bladder hose pass-through port at the top here. You drop a water bladder inside the main compartment. You can run the hose out through here, and then you snake it out. And as I mentioned earlier, you've got these kind of like straps on either shoulder strap that lets you run the hose down there so you can kind of take a drink through there like that as well. And on the front, another miscellaneous feature I didn't want to miss. It's sort of like this 5 daisy chain loops here. You can clip things through. 2, they stay out of the way when they're not in use. Most common usage that I found is to put like a light on here if I'm wearing this bag at night and biking. So with that out of the way, let's talk now about the water bottle pockets. One on each side. It's got this nice, strong, high quality mesh. They're relatively low profile when not in use. You can kind of see this sort of, you know, they don't disappear completely, but they're relatively low profile. The black on black helps with that in this particular colorway. And it has this bit of hidden gusseting at the bottom you can see here, which lets it kind of expand out to carry, you know, water bottles of larger sizes. And you've got a little bit of like a elasticated rubber elastic strap at the top, which also helps with retention and keeping the profile slim. Now, obviously you can put water bottles in there. I'll talk about that in a second. But you can also keep smaller things inside of here. So right now I have in a little North Face pouch, just a little North Face pouch. I put like my battery, like a USB battery or something like that in there. I clip it into this compression strap and I just drop it into this pocket here. Nice and low profile. Get a little bit of extra security from the loop on here, but you can also just cinch this tight. Kind of keeps it in there, and the little elastic strap at the top kind of helps with retention there. But we can also stick a water bottle inside of there, and as I mentioned, you got that gusseting at the bottom that just sort of pops out. Nice and big and tall, and you can see like any normal size water bottle. I don't know, normal is a Weasley word. This is an 18-ounce Purist water bottle. It's a decent size. It basically disappears completely inside of there. You can accommodate like 1 liter Nalgene bottles even. See on the inside you do have some amount of intrusion into the main compartment, but there is elasticity so it goes out outwards as well. One thing I noticed, the main compartment can fill up such a way that you really have to fight to get something in there. Just the way that the bag is structured and the way this water bottle pocket is structured. Something to keep in mind if you are planning to fill this bag up to its max. You can obviously fit things like a tripod in there, and here's where this extra unbuckling strap comes in really handy. You can unbuckle it, you can thread it through if your tripod thing has a thing to thread through, and it gives you a little bit of extra stability. You can lock this one down there, and this is not going anywhere. Next pocket to talk about, the quick access pocket at the top. Water resistant zipper here, one way, low profile zip. It's towards the back. Inside of here, I've got a comb for some reason. I guess my hair is looking crazy these days. Chapstick, some hand sanitizer, and then my keys here. I found that this pocket was something that I ended up using a lot, simply because there aren't a lot of other first order kind of relatively secure pockets. There's only these front tube pockets, which I will talk about in a second. So a lot of stuff went in here. Keys, comb, you know, chapstick, phone, earbuds, whatever. Anything that you need quick access but you want to be relatively secure went in here. It has this pretty rough mesh that I'm not a big fan of. I don't know why they chose this. Almost any other material would have been a better choice in my opinion. No need for this. It doesn't feel good. I don't like the interaction when I put my hand in here. The pocket is of a decent size. Like you can fit all those things and a phone stuff in there. It gets a little tight when you start stuffing everything in there, which you kind of have to, but it is reasonable. The maybe other kind of thing I noticed about this is because the frame sheet, you can kind of see it here, is these white things here at the corners. When you, it juts up above the pocket, so when you try and reach in from this side, you're often hitting, you can see the frame sheet a little bit. Additionally, when the bag is packed out, because of how you can see here's the pocket, when you have a bunch of stuff in here all the way up, like here, it starts to get quite tight to get into this pocket because of the frame sheet and because of the stuff you have inside. So, you know, maybe a nitpick, but it's an interaction that friction that I ran into a lot with this pocket. And like I said, you're going to be using this pocket a lot in the EDC use case at least. So speaking of the tube pockets in the front, the Alpha 31's front is dominated by like one of its most distinct features beyond this roll top here, which are these tube style pockets. There's two of them. They run the full length of this kind of front access panel. They open quite easily with a single water resistant zipper, low profile zip along their entire height here. The pouches themselves are not seam sealed, but the material is very water resistant, and you've got these water resistant zippers, so generally have a high degree of water resistance in my experience. The interior of the pockets are just a simple white contrast. The back of the material, there's no separate internal organization inside of here. I'll show you the contents here in a second. So while aesthetically pleasing and certainly distinctive looking, I found that in practice these kind of bifurcated tube style pockets were not that useful in most scenarios versus what I think you could get in terms of utility out of like a flat, regular flat front panel / pocket would have been. So let's start with what I have inside of here. I got in this one here like a Anker USB battery. I've got a towel, hand towel, and I've got a highlighter, and I've got a tactile turn nitro pen. This was a good one. And then beyond that, there's nothing inside. Like I said, it's just a big, tube sewn down the middle here. On this pocket here, I have some hand lotion, kind of Marvis toothbrush set, a little mini dot kit, a kind of packet of hand wipes, and some workout earbuds here. And that's it. And then it's sort of like this, big tube here. So starting with the positives, I think that as with many other aspects of this bag, these kind of bifurcated tube style pockets work most useful in the outdoor hiking type scenario. And that's where like their large kind of capacity and inherent like kind of rough 1-2 organization works very well with a lot of things you might carry in those scenarios: a first aid kit, energy bar, snacks, toiletry kit, headlamp, compass, GPS, things like that. Like you can roughly put like your survival gear goes in one, like first aid kit or compass or GPS or whatever, and then like maybe like food and like small shell or toiletry kit if you want to keep those things together, headlamp in the other, and it doesn't have a lot of cognitive load. It's one or the other, right? And those kind of things will stack up fairly easily so that you use like the whole height of this bag here without having to fiddle with a bunch of pouches or pockets or anything like that. They also open really widely, which gives you lots of room to like get chunky things like a first aid kit in and out very quickly. Now, outside of this use case, however, I found that like a single larger pocket would have worked better. So as implemented, there's a couple of shortcomings here. They're too narrow to carry many common EDC items. Like you notice I didn't have like a notebook in here because they're kind of too small. Like they're only this width. So it's hard to get maybe a field notes you get in here, but most notebooks you can't get in there. You can't carry things like a tablet. You can't carry things like larger headphones in here. You also can't even carry anything other than like the thinnest outer layer, like a nylon windbreaker would be okay. But if you want to roll up like a, Arc'teryx Proton or some sort of like, sweater or something like that, you're going to have a real hard time getting that inside of here. And they also curiously lack a key leash, which I thought was kind of an odd oversight because like that would have been something that I think would have worked well inside of this. Because they're very tall and they lack no internal organization, you basically end up with everything jumbling down at the bottom. I found that while this 1-2 sorting was very useful for outdoorsy stuff, in the EDC travel use cases, it imposes additional cognitive load. You have to remember, wait, which pocket did I put it in? And then like you have to then dig through everything jumbled at the bottom to try and get it. Let's talk about the laptop compartment. The bag has an internal laptop compartment, or rather a stretchy pocket that can hold a laptop, and it is accessible from the exterior via this waterproof or water resistant zipper, which has a nice finger loop pull down here that runs the whole length of the back of the bag here on one side. Nice and, I've used this bag for years. You can see how stiff this zipper is. This is one of the things that they improved, I heard, for the V3 version. That's a little bit different. Like this one still sticks and is a bit frictionful even after years of use. The new one, I think they redid the way they sewed this zipper track, and they use a different zipper, which makes access a lot smoother. Now, inside of here, and you see it opens up here, you've got a space for up to 16-inch MacBook Pro. This is a 15-inch or whatever MacBook Air, and then inside there's nothing is just like the frame sheet, and then a little stretchy pocket that you'll see more clearly when I'm showing you the main compartment here. The laptop area is not padded. The frame sheet here, and I guess like the back padding there. There's not a false bottom, though I wouldn't worry too much about this hitting the ground. Usually, it depends on what else you have in the main compartment. If you have nothing else in the main compartment, and you just drop the bag, because this bottom part of the bag is the only thing that contacts the floor due to the kind of sharply raked angle of the bottom of the bag, you will get a shock to your laptop, so do be careful about that. But more crucially, there's no padding on the front face of this compartment. It's not a separate compartment, it's just like this elastic pocket. You'll be able to see more clearly in a second. That's what this is here. This is the laptop compartment here. So there's nothing really, just fits in here in this little elastic thing. There's no padding here. So what this means is, if you have anything sharp or heavy in this main compartment, it's gonna like impact your laptop. This was most evident for me when I tried carrying a camera in here, which is something they show repeatedly. They even have a little video on their product introduction page, so that's something to kind of keep in mind. I was like, oh wow, this is a good way of ruining the screen on your laptop if you're not careful. But if you are careful, or if you have soft things in here, like as you can see, obviously I do, then it's great. Just got an extra way of kind of carrying a laptop. A nice little nod to like modern day device life here. You can put a water bladder in here instead of the laptop, run it out through this water bladder hose pass through that I mentioned earlier, and be able to use this bag in a more outdoorsy scenario. However, there is no hook or loop at the top, or anywhere to attach the clip that usually you use to keep the water bladder suspended. So next, and here we're getting into the home stretch, my friends. Let's talk about access to this bag. Front clamshell style opening. I like it. I say clamshell, it's maybe technically more of a panel because it only opens up down to here. You can see like the fold line is here. So you got like this chunk here, which I'll talk about in a second. These zippers are reversed YKK zippers. They're not water resistant or coated or anything like that. And they're actually kind of smaller than I expected. I don't know if these are like number 5s or whatever, but smaller than I expected, but they work fine. You've got a rain flap that kind of covers it. Rain flap gets out of the way, like it doesn't get snagged, which I liked. You can see there is a little bit, just sort of the nature of the curvature of this panel or whatever. You probably will find yourself using 2 hands to kind of like zip open and shut the bag many times, but I wouldn't say it's like super friction full. It just kind of depends on what you got loaded in there and the angle you're coming at it from, etc. here. Since there's these 2 tube pockets here, and you've got a bunch of stuff on the inside, or you can put a bunch of stuff on the inside, I'll talk about here in a second. The panel can get pretty heavy, so sometimes it's like operating a board, a big like whomp, and it can be a little bit, like manipulating a big board or heavy floppy thing. But if you get everything all the way to the bottom near the fulcrum, it's not too bad. Here, the main compartment opens like this via the panel or clamshell loader, but there's this big area at the bottom here, all of this here below the fold line, that you can't actually readily see when you open it up like this. And little things like here, a little pouch or whatever, kind of can fall down there, or it can be easy to kind of not lose them. I mean, it's the one compartment, but it is something that, I kind of noticed, as opposed to like a true clamshell that opens all the way from the bottom there. But I found that this is the most useful way to access the bag in EDC situations, just simply because it provides you such a big, wide open, view of kind of most of what's inside of there. Also gives you access to this front inside flat pocket here. Conversely, it's not the best way to load the bag, because you get, when you're really loading the bag, excuse me, if you've got a few things, yeah, you should chuck them in there like this. But when you want to like really load out the bag, because it's got like this lip down here and it's got a little angle thing going on here, and because it kind of gets a little bit wonky up here because of the variable nature of the top of the roll top here, you probably will be loading that from the roll top way to kind of just make the most maximum usage of this bag. Back of this front panel has the same kind of mesh material as the quick access pocket. I mind it less here. Here's where I keep things like my wallet, sometimes my earbuds or whatever inside of there. That's the only real organization in the main compartment other than kind of the tablet pocket, which I'll talk about. It's pretty deep, you can see, like this. And it doesn't really have exact independent dimensioning, but because of just sort of the mesh and the way that this whole panel is constructed, and you could probably stuff like a lighter jacket in there. Again, nothing too bulky. I found it quite useful to leave the leave this inner mesh pocket cracked open. Just crack open the top main zipper and come and get my wallet or whatever out of there, like that. The other major way of accessing this bag is, of course, the distinctive roll top at the top of the bag. And this comes with all the pros and cons that you might expect of a roll top bag. So, opening it up like this gives you an extra 3 liters, they say, of capacity, though in reality you could probably get a little bit more. I feel it's like it's a little bit more than 3 liters if you had it all the way up to the top like that. There's no magnets, how do they work, or any kind of Velcro or other kind of closure to this. Is just like a thin strip or plastic or whatever that you put together and just roll down like this. You can roll it down however many times you want, and then they connect to these angled buckles on the side that I showed you before, you know, at any kind of height that you would like. Now, something that you may have noticed is these are both female buckles on here, so that this means is you can't like connect the bag like this at the top like you can with many other kinds of roll top bags. It gives you usually a little bit more extra capacity, but in this case you can't do that. Rolling the bag open like this gives you this nice white contrast lining. When I load the bag for like hiking or outdoor uses, like this is, you know, how I usually do it. Just give me a big huge tube, throw everything down to the bottom like that, and cinch it down. It's quite nice. This is the best way of loading the bag to its maximum capacity, and when you want to get things without, you know, messing with the whole, you know, top compartment, that's the front clamshell or the laptop compartment there for you. It is really tempting to like way overload this bag. You can put a lot more stuff in this bag than the load carriage system is capable of appropriately supporting. Even though I carried it, it just, you know, it rides up so high above the support line of the shoulder straps, even with the load lifter cinched, and it was just too much weight for what this thing could carry. So finally, we're going to get into the main compartment of the bag. I already talked a little bit about the front inner left pocket. The only other thing you have inside of this front compartment here then is this front stretch pocket, which you can use to carry like books or like a notebook or a tablet, or even if you have business papers, man, you can put them inside of here as well, like in a folder or whatever. The bag interior has a bit of a contrast white contrast white lining, just due to the nature of the backing fabric for this material here. But like I said at the beginning, there's this whole area at the bottom underneath the fulcrum or fold line of the front panel that is kind of hard to access. And then once you get up to this area up here where you're inside of the roll top, to get lost in those folds. That's most evident when you've got the bag kind of on the side, like as you're trying to get stuff in here or stuff in there. We got a bunch of whatever there. Now, since the bag is kind of like a taller one and you've got a roll top, you're going to find that inevitably you're going to want to stack things up on here. So you're going to want to use like packing cubes or stuff sacks or whatever. Obviously, you need to think a little bit about how you stack things inside of there, you know, much like you would with any kind of hiking pack. In the EDC scenario, usually you're not going to have a bag filled out that much. I found one kind of really nice, interesting use case for this in an EDC scenario was like I mentioned earlier, like I've got like my normal EDC loadout, but then I want to also go to the gym after work, so I throw my shoes and my gym clothes, which are inside of like an large packing pouch or whatever inside of here. It kind of nicely swallows that up, and then it gives me both the flexibility of carrying that, and then also like have all my EDC kind of stuff with me. And then if I stop at say like a grocery store on the way home from work, you can actually pop open, for example, the top roll top, and buy one bag of groceries or whatever. It rolls inside of there. You've got quite a bunch of bulky stuff inside of here, but it's fairly easy to get it in and out. Sort of a nice use case for the different kind of versatility of this bag. Obviously, as a hiking bag, all the things that you would expect from similar types of hiking bag or outdoor bags of this form factor you're going to get out of here. The maybe other thing I would mention about this main compartment is something that they show on their website rather prominently, as it were, where they show a guy, I think on their website they've got a guy with a Canon 5D Mark II, Mark III, and an old school 70-200. On there, he's in the video. They got the guy he just opens up his roll top and he pulls out magically the 70-200 on the 5D Mark whatever. It wasn't even it was an old school one, an old school DSLR, and then with no explanation for how that happens in something like this. And he's ready to shoot, no padding, no whatever. Look, that's a bad idea, and it's not. This bag's not well suited for it. This is Hyperlight Mountain Gear camera X-Pod, the large one. Inside I have a Hasselblad X2D 100C with a 35-75 on there. A bit of a heavier camera, but certainly not as big as a proper old school DSLR. And if you put it in here, you can already tell where we're going with this, right? There's no padding here. There's no padding here on the sidewall or whatever. If you put it in there in a case, which you certainly can, it'll carry it. Ooh, that sounds painful. Now I've got it inside of a padded case in there, so it's not the end of the world, but you can already kind of see where I'm going with that. Second one is this is pushing against, as I mentioned a couple times, the laptop inside of here. Now if you put it in a big padded case, it's going to be okay, which is why I just did that. But you're not you could do that with any bag, is I guess what I'm trying to say. And then if you take it out of here, I don't want to do this, but if you just drop the camera inside of here, well, you can already tell what's going to happen the first time this impacts against this laptop. Now this is not a criticism of this bag per se. I would never aim to do that with a bag of this style, but I just wanted to call it out because it's featured so prominently in their product page. However, if you are in the adventure scenario where you wanted to bring a camera with this bag, and hey, I bring cameras when I'm outdoor hiking, I would bring a lighter camera, or make sure you got a bunch of your stuff here, your puffy jacket and your whatever, your softer, squishier things there, and then you put your camera, I would say, on top of that, or I would put it inside a softer container or something like this. So just something to kind of keep in mind, maybe just, taking that as a broader generalization. I don't think that this bag's main compartment is as well suited for delicate electronics or bulky, heavy things, heavy things with sharp edges or kind of delicate things. Cameras being a great example of that. Conversely, I think it works really well for bulky things that are not delicate. Groceries is a great example. Maybe not wine bottles or whatever. Or soft, puffy things like jackets, outdoor stuff, blah, blah, blah. And also gym clothes are another great example. So basically, that kind of wraps it up for this bag here. A lot of things to like about it. Both flexible, cool aesthetic, great materials, lots of versatility in the usage and access, etc. And then also at the same time, maybe there's some limitations in terms of it's the jack of all trades, master of none, and a couple of bits of stuff like the strappiness, a little bit of friction here and there, maybe some thought they need to put into what you carry in the main bag and what it's most well suited for, that you might want to keep in mind. But if you're looking for something kind of in this sort of versatile form factor and or the aesthetic, definitely a bag worth considering. So with that having been said, if you're in the market for a bag like this, what are some other bags that you might want to consider? Let's start with the Rolf-Mia Shift Day Pack. This is the V2 version. You can kind of see the resemblance here. You've got kind of a same roll top aesthetic here at the top. This one's got a little bit more refinement in terms of the zippers, and then the kind of magnetic bid locks that they use to, just get them sort of attached here magically with magnets. How do they work? You got the same side laptop access here with an elastic kind of structure for the laptop holding compartment. Quick access pocket, though this one's much smaller. You've got what I think is a much superior solution, or front/pocket, with a bit of internal organization inside of here for your phone or other things that helps you use more efficient, get more efficient access to, using this pocket. And then also you have not a clamshell or panel, but you do have a front panel that you can access the interior contents of this, so unwrapping the entire backpack here. This bag is ostensibly aimed a little bit more at the travel use case. It's a very ultra lightweight bag, as you can imagine, made out of Dyneema by Rolltop, who I've previously reviewed a few of their bags on the channel. They're a Japanese kind of small, a couple of craftsmen basically making this by hand up in Gifu, Japan. Different, but same kind of high-tech materials, high premium on design, attention to detail, just really well thought out stuff. Definitely worth checking out, especially if you're more in like ultra lightweight kind of travel. Going from Japan to Italy, this is the ATD1 by Attitude Supply. It is also is made by a guy out in Italy. It was also kind of the same take. It's available in two sizes. This is a larger one. You can see right away, same kind of roll top design here. This one's also this one buckles very similarly to the remote equipment bag here. Rather than giving you that front access, it does this whole back panel fold out thing where you got your laptop compartment here and then your big main compartment in the front here. This one also has a removable hip belt, though it's just basically a nylon strap. You do have a luggage pass-through on this one, which is not something that you have on the remote equipment. Luggage pass-through here, and decent shoulder straps, and then a couple of dual water bottle pockets, same as on the Rolltop, same as on the remote equipment. I just find like this front pocket solution so much better than the remote equipment one in EDC or travel type use cases. So both of these I think are going to be better bags for those kind of scenarios. It's also available in a smaller one. I forgot the actual sizes of each of those. If your interests are less about travel and more about outdoorsy stuff, this is a Hyperlight Mountain Gear Southwest 2400. So it's nominally a 24-liter bag, but in reality it holds a lot more. Also made out of Dyneema. Has a Velcro at the top here. You can see huge capacity, no front or external access, obviously no laptop or anything like that. You do have like your water hose pass-through ports on either side here. Removable hip belt with some pocketing on there. Much lighter weight than this one. A much more purpose-built outdoor ultralight type pack. Big pockets. You're stuffing multiple water bottles, shells, etc. inside of there. Same thing on here. Huge. You can put like 2-3 smart water bottle, 1 liter water bottles inside of here and easily access them. Kind of designed so you can kind of reach back and get them out of there. You got pockets on here for your snacks or whatever, phone, whatnot on the hip belt. Much lighter weight, much higher capacity to size or weight ratio than this. So that's kind of an example of how this bag will be outperformed by a custom or a purpose-built type bag. And then finally, a bit of a deeper cut. This one's actually not for sale anymore. This is the Outlier Nexus pack from Outlier Clothing in New York. Same kind of aesthetic. You can already see Rolltop with the thing, and then little fidlock buckles on the side here. Water bottle pocket on either side here. Front dump pocket on here, and then you can kind of access the main compartment from these 2 zips on either side here. No external access to the laptop, however. You're going to need to undo the fidlock buckles here and then get it aside. A little bit of a deeper cut. I just wanted to show like how some people have played around with the same. This one's also Dyneema, by the way. How different people have played around with the same form factor. And so really, that's it. if you have any questions about this bag, go ahead and leave those in the comments, and if I can, I will answer them. And if you have anything you would like me to review, go ahead and leave those in the comments, and if I can, I will review them. Thank you very much.